It needs more of this kind of yeah, listen, the crowd, what's swimming? Sorry, Sarah and Joey Lighthouse, surname, the photographer. That crowd you can see outside there's a lady there does dog sitting and her place so I can't remember her name, but she did give me a name and phone number, which has been filed in my wallet and since gone. But if you ring it's here, ask her, she said like, if I was going to leave here with someone for 30 minutes, well done. She might get the prize. 30 seconds. She looked really good. She has the dog at her place. All that kind of jazz. Yeah, so I'd have a we could have a round of that. Just sit on the Matilda's going to be 5 in December and she's still got
on the water. That's how I must. So that'll stay up on my YouTube channel. Oh, correct. So there's a double up on the 47. So I've got that screw turned off.
Yeah.
Turn the lights a little bit more. Push that, the screen comes on.
That one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll turn it off. Because you can see your view on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Well, those
So
lights.
I'm going to start the recording now.
I might get as many food. Put $300 on the bar. Somebody said that one I got charged. What's the next place?
Marcus?
Will be beyond the sea, and never again I'll go see. Beyond the doubt, I'm already there. Bring me back, no, never
Welcome everyone. My name is Liz Taylor, and it is with sadness but also my privilege to be conducting this service for John and for you, his family and friends. A little bit of housekeeping, if I may. We're almost there, but unfortunately I do have to ask, if you have got a mask, if you could make sure you're covering both your nose and your mouth, wearing the mask. We need to wear the mask even though we're seated here. The rules are still eating and drinking is okay to remove the mask, and presenting up here, the people that are going to be speaking, you can remove your mask then. And Chris has just told me that the club has announced that if you're outside, Chris, have I got this right? If you're outside having a drink, you can remove your mask and you can stand. So you can do the old bar lean again. Oh, you might have to move away from the bar, mightn't you? Also, if I may ask, could you kindly check that you've silenced your phones and also your watches and devices, just to make sure they're silent during the formalities. And I shall say thank you all for being here today, both here in the club and those who are watching via our live stream service. Your presence and your support is greatly appreciated. And we gather today with thoughts of John foremost in our minds. I'm very aware that this has come as a shock. At 75 years of age, John left us far too soon. He loved and lived life to the full, and I'm told he did so on his terms. I got a rumble, didn't it? He's survived by his two children, Rebecca and Chris, his two grandchildren, Charlie and Henry, his brother Bill, sister-in-law Mim, and his two nieces, Penny and Liz. John's passing has brought us together today, uniting us in a way that perhaps no other human experience does. And it reminds us of just how fragile our relationships can be, and of how unique those people are who cross our pathways in life. And perhaps we can take some comfort knowing there's probably quite the reunion going on with Pam, John's beloved wife, whom he deeply missed. And it's true to say he wasn't the same after she passed some 26 years ago. He was a unique man, I understand, I don't need to tell you that, and a real character who lived through many adventures, experiences, ups and downs throughout his 75 years. So in keeping with that, John would want this to be short and meaningful. He doesn't like things to drag on. So with that, I will add, again, you're invited to share memories over a drink and a bite to eat after the formalities. So now, without further ado, I will firstly hand over to John's brother Bill to say a few words. Thank you, Bill. And everyone who is going to speak, if you can, make sure you hold the microphone close to your lips. And the stairs are here, and again, you can remove your mask while you're speaking.
Last Monday, I sat down to write a eulogy, and I realised that it wasn't what he did, how he did things, it's who it was. I've seen lots of death, parents and other people, and this has affected me much more deeply than I thought it would. He's going to be very, very much missed, so thank you all very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
I'm going to hand over to Beck and Chris. They're going to say a few words. I think Beck first.
All right, where do you start with a man like Alldrtitt? I've read this thing numerous times now and unable to sleep thinking about all the things I would like to say and all the things I can't say because I'm a polite lady and I don't swear. I was going to talk about how great a dad he was growing up, and he was a great dad. He was awesome. He was, sorry, it doesn't talk with the paper. He was tough, real tough, but he was fair. That's right. And he was a lot of fun. Stuffer and I were always welcome on whatever adventure, task, or helping errand he was on. Always, no matter the day or the hour of night. He was a fantastic dad. But things changed, he changed, and life changed him. Our relationship wasn't perfect, and Stuffer's father wasn't a perfect man or a perfect father. But he was the perfect father for us, and he did parenting his way. All right, enough emotional bullshit about Alldrtitt. Let's go on to the stories about the old goat. I bet everyone here has been told at least once that you've been doing something wrong by him. I mean, he was an expert on everything. When his first grandson, Charlie, was born, he came to the hospital bringing with him his mum, the Alldrtitt. He was so proud holding Charlie for the first time, and you'll see in one of the photos later the tears running off his giant Alldrtitt nose as he looks down at Charlie in wonder. So anyway, one day when he visited, I was really struggling to feed Charlie, and I was an emotional mess. Poor little Charlie was crying in hunger. So what does Alldrtitt do? Well, he does what he did best. He marches out to the nurse's station and tells them in a very quiet, deaf voice that he knows better, that he has spent months and months in hospitals, and that he knows what to do. He knows how to breastfeed and what they should be doing to help me. Yep, they were doing it wrong. For fuck's sake, breastfeeding. Honestly, no word of a lie. He told the bloody nurses how to teach me how to breastfeed a child. Alldrtitt was proud of both his grandsons, and he cried when I told him that Henry's middle name was Christopher after his favourite child. Well, it proved a 60% favourite anyway. He said Pam would have loved that name, and she would have. He was a unique man, and he was a unique dad, and Chris and I were lucky to have him. He had a tough but fabulous life, and he lived it the opposite way anyone told him to live it. Always his way. For Stuffer and I, his passing comes as a form of comfort, as I'm sure it does for all those that knew the old Alldrtitt, the one with Pam, and the one before his brain injury. We're all finally able to say goodbye to the man he was, the father he was, the friend he was, and we're able to let him rest, knowing that he is back with his beloved Pam, our mum, that he so greatly missed for 26 years. So let's not be sad. Today, let's raise a glass to him, to them, and cheers to their reunion they finally have. In the words of the silly old prick himself, he is having the time of his life. So let's do the same, because you know what he would say if we didn't. You're doing it wrong.
You've got to follow that, Chris.
Very poorly.
In the last few days, I've been trying to think of what to say here, the best way to describe Dad. The only word that came to mind was stubborn. But his willingness to help anyone in need and give them advice whether they need it or not. He would give you the shirt off his back, the last dollar in his pocket, even if you just met him for the first time. He would assist the water police on many occasions, and was a local character who gained a reputation in Pittwater. To describe him properly needs to be done in two stages. Early life as a husband, father, and these are the times I want to remember. Then there was once when his wife Pam, our mother, passed away in December 95. I think part of him gave up on life that day, and he was never the same. A drunken fall in the car park at Palm Beach Wharf in 2001 ended with 3 months in hospital, 2 of which in a coma. His stubbornness kicked in, and he was soon up and about telling the doctors and nurses how to do their job properly. I'll never forget him saying, "You're doing it wrong," to anyone who was tying up their boat, and his uncanny ability to pick the worst possible weather to take a boat up or down the coast. He certainly lived life his way. May he now rest with Mum in peace.
This looks like Brent coming up. Right on cue. Thank you, Brent.
Thank you. For all of you that don't know me, I'm Brent Taylor from Scotland Island Way. Where do you start? Chris, Beth, you lost, a legend of a man. I met John late in his life, 10 years or so ago, when I was diving, and we started working together. Once again, I was doing it wrong. But his encouragement and everything through life has been really good. He supported me with the business and buying the barge and lots of things. Anyway, I'm not much for speeches, but I've written a few things down. So I started with Johnny Pop's ships, all shit, and you all full. And I thought I'd start by saying, what a mess you made, and it's way too early. He's actually meant to be working for me tomorrow, so it's quite an inconvenience being here today. I met John late in his life, and we used to laugh and play that he was my illegitimate father. I'd ask him if he knew my mother Shauna or where he was in 1979. It's been a game. He's always been there for us, and like all of you, he's always there to help anyone, whether he knows you or not. He's a local legend. Where do I go? The fish markets. I don't know if anyone's ever been in a car with John. It's one of the scariest things in life. I'm actually surprised he didn't become a statistic earlier. We used to do early morning runs out to the fish markets, and he used to try and break the record every time. Red lights, cyclists, nothing would stop him. I certainly know that the men at the fish markets are very sad to hear of his loss. When I spoke to him the other day, he'd be out there buying them all a coffee and saying g'day at 4:30, basically telling them what to do. Just a memory of John recently and how stubborn he was. We were pushing the barge down the bay to roll on reserve, and we're in the channel going past Prince Alfred Yacht Club. I asked John several times to order course to port, in which he told me I'd been driving barges for 40 years and I didn't need to tell him what to do. After several more attempts, I started swearing and using the F word, and we ordered course to starboard at my command, just missing the starboard mark by a few inches. We very nearly owned the marker that day. Anyway, we're all doing it wrong. We're going to miss him, and he really can't be replaced out here on the bay. The way he's helped each of the people in the different industries in the area is going to be a big hole, a big loss. Whether he's towing people up and down, or running fuel, or ladies to boats, and buying prawns. Anyway, he was just such an everyday legend here on the bay, and I'll never be the same. Anyway, cheers, Johnny. One more thing, sorry. When John and I used to argue, the secret word was Pam. And if you ever mentioned Pam, it put him in a different place. He'd become the mellow old fool instead of the angry old fool. Anyway, thank you all.
Thank you, Brent. Ollie and Friendly, are you ready? Please come up.
You want me to start, Brian?
Well, Ollie was done anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, all should taught me a few things like that to take over. Brian, before we start this, continue with the rest of the celebration of John's life, there's a few things we've got to clear up. Well, he was a very naughty boy here in the club some time ago. Like we all were, we were all very naughty and stuff. And he was banned. And I just wondered whether he should be in here at the moment. What do you think? Bit hard to ask him to leave now.
Mate, I don't know how we're gonna handle this. You're on the directive of this club, aren't you? I think we might have to, visit you or John Sinclair's have to make a decision, or we can get these people here to vote on it if they want it. But you end up, you want us to stay and all shit to stay in the club? All those in favour? Okay, always has it. Okay, I'll put you go.
Okay, I've known John for about 45 years. In those 45 years, I've been doing it wrong for 45 friggin' years. But he told me so all the time. He so I've known him for 45 years, and according to John, I've been doing it wrong for 45 years. But as Brendan's about to say, he had a heart of gold in Brian's speech there, had a heart of gold, and he'd help anyone who was in trouble on the bay, anywhere. Call him up, and he was there. So I had great memories of John and Pam, and over the years, we had a lot of fun together, and I found he was a very, very knowledgeable man. He could pick seeds, outboard motors. He grabbed me one day and took me out of the basin, and we went up the bush with an axe and machete, and we stripped a tree of bark. And I said, "What are you going to do with this, all ships?" And he goes, "Oh, we're going to boil it up and put the fish net in it and all the ropes so they don't rot." I mean, who would think of that? You know, you get this gum out of a tree and you boil it up and you melt it down. Gee. And, well, I don't know. It didn't rot, so it's like it was, yeah. Do you want to take over for a while, Brian, or what? Oh, well, I can keep going. He was like a spare motor. If you went to sea, even though he'd go south when the wind was blowing south, so he didn't have, he wanted to kind of really rough it. But if you go to sea, it was like taking a spare outboard motor with him. Because you could fix anything, electrically, mechanically. He'd tie it up with a bit of string or wire, gaffer tape, and he'd keep it thing going. So off we go again, you know. It was just fantastic. You remind me of that verse of John Williamson's True Blue, where you talk, in the verse there, it says, tie it up with wire to get you back on the road. You know, he's just one of those guys. But the problem is he'd leave it the way it was, and he wouldn't revert back to a fold until it shit itself again, and then he'd tie it up again. You know, he'd keep running for ages. So, that's about. I've got a little bit to say later when Brian has a chat. So I'll hand it over to you, Brian.
Thanks, mate. What I did, I sat out at Russell's boat shed the other day, and I did a lot of writing and trying to think and trying to get everything into perspective as to what Brother Alldrtitt was like. It's quite hard because if you don't know him, you wouldn't believe half the story. So what I did, I sat down, I thought, when did I first meet him and stuff like that. So I've written a bit here, and I'll just go on with that if you stand by. Okay, so I first met John Alldrtitt in the 70s whilst working with the Majesty's Water Police at Broken Bay. In those days, Pittwater was a peaceful place to enjoy boating. Quite often we won out on the launch and were told by our boss, Buster Brown, not to sit on our bums, but to go forth and make acquaintances with people who use this wonderful waterway. And by this he meant boat sheds, volunteer marine rescue boats, ferry owners and skippers, the boats and ranger. But this did not include the Royal Motor Yacht Club, the Royal Prince Alfred Yacht Club, or the Pittwater Aquatic Club, who were purveyors of alcohol. This soon went by the wayside, and it was a very nice little break from our strenuous duties. When conditions became bleak and storms would appear on the horizon, it became a full-time job to attend and complete the cries for help, because the Broken Bay area is 4.5 times the size of Sydney Harbour. This is when we found out who our friends and professional assistants in the Marine Service of Marine Rescue were. Welcome to the Three Musketeers of Pittwater: John Alldrtitt, Carl Gonzalez, R.I.P., and soon John Oliver, R.I.P. Yeah. These three legends were like our right arm and jumped into action whenever we needed a hand. Don Mackay owned the Palm Beach ferries, but then he sold it to Peter Barrels, and this became another string in our bow, so to speak. We also had Mariner Base with Barry Kirkham, Pentecostal with Derek Bernard, the VCP at Newport, and the Coast Guard at Cottage Point. Ricky Gill and his men down there from the MSB, Lindsay Wellings and his crew from Palm Beach Marine. This just gives you an idea as to how much we valued these wonderful people, and that man especially. Personal description. This is the hardest part. So, rough as guts, big heart, very knowledgeable with everything that affects people and their welfare, and a complete know-all. Did you know that John was part of the team that installed X-ray machines at the Royal North Shore Hospital? This is part of his skills the man obtained through his life. Now, you can imagine putting an X-ray machine in a hospital and getting told by this bloke with no shoes as to be doing it wrong, you know? Anyway, why did he do it? We don't know. Why he turned from electrical engineer to professional fisherman has got a lot of people stumped, but he did, and he made a living out of it. Home sweet home was Case's Retreat, and the love of his life was his wife Pammy, who presented him with Christopher and Rebecca, his wonderful children, who are here today, mourning the loss of their father. So, this is part of the background, not all of it, because we do not have enough time here today. Plus, I think I've got to work at Russell's next Friday, so we'll be still here. So, present his achievements and misadventures. Now, the man himself, love him or dislike him, as we got to, he was a barefoot legend of Pittwater who would give the shirt off his back, his right arm, or his last dollar to anyone. I was going to say last beer, but there are some things he would not part with. Not like Teddy Allen, no, he's a Jew. Actually, we could do Ted's funeral here. He would go out in any conditions to help his fellow man and wouldn't take any remuneration for it. He would often say, buy me a beer sometime. We as water police officers thought the world of John and knew whenever he turned up with his mates to assist in the rescue of a boat or a person would be his way because he knew best. Now, John, I'll hand it over to you because I've just got a few things here that different things that happened, like that cruiser on fire in Case's Retreat, right in the middle of summer when it was all on fire. The generator caught fire externally, and the fire was approaching the gas tank on the back. And I was in a runabout. The water police wanted a little piece of shit, and we didn't have pumps or anything on board. Carl and him turned up. They threw an anchor over the bow of the boat because it was burning through the mooring line, and towed it out of there. At the time, the camping area was full. There were people everywhere swimming, boats around. If it had drifted onto the shore, it would have burned a few other boats. But they towed it round to Currawong, and I've got a photograph in there if you want to look at it later where the helicopter and the Valiant turned up to put out. Then there was the yacht on fire at Bennett's Wharf. Now, this is a little classic bullshit, you know. Bennett's Wharf, right near his house, you get called, there's a fire there in Falcon. And of course, we had a couple of guests on board, but not for their elbow, brought a bottle of beer. And but we couldn't quite get close enough to this yacht on the mooring. Next minute, all shit turns up and says, I'll fix it for you. And he pulled out this fucking great axe and he said, I'm going to punch a hole. When it lifts up and down in the wash, I'm going to punch a hole through the bottom. It'll sink down to the gunnels and put the fire out. His first hit was about this far from the top of the vessel. So the bloke, if he got it back, was going to have a huge hole he had to repair before he did the one below the water. Anyway,
That was awesome.
yeah, that was all shit. He hit his second one and down she went, you know. It rescued many vessels in the 1974 Sigma storm, which just absolutely bashed Bridgewater. You were involved with all those and that. Many a time he was, you'd swear he was a copper because he was on board one of our police boats. Ollie, you could help me with this one. This is the Yogi Bear singing.
Oh,
Yeah, you remember that?
yeah.
Yeah, one night John called me up about 8 o'clock, I guess, and he said Cole hasn't come back from fishing, and he said he normally does a shot just out near the Birch Grove Park, but Cole had a boat that was more a prawn boat, not really a fish trawler, and it was a bit of a blow on. There was a sou'easter blow on, so Alldrtitt said, well, look, we've got to go and look for him. So he said, throw your tin boat in. I had a 15 footer or something, centre conflict thing with a 70 on it. And he said, we'll go and look for it. Let's look for them. I said, yeah, okay. So we go out there and we head out to where the Birch Grove Park was, which was, I reckon, 50 metres, 60 metres. And then and we stopped every half mile with the spotlight and yelled out, Cole, Bob, where are you? And didn't see anything. And it was getting more horrendous. The sea was getting up. We got right out to about 60 metres and we said, well, maybe they did a shot somewhere else or what's going on. So anyway, we turned around. We spent about 2 or 3 hours out there. So we turned around. It was building up pretty heavily. And we come back in. We're in the following scene. We went down. The spray went out. And we smelt diesel. So we said, this is it. And I turned the sounder on. And I picked up the sounder. And the diesel stick on the water. So we got a couple of marks on it. And the water police were up near Maitland Bay looking. So we called them up. There's no mobile phone on that method. So we called them up and they came up and got radar marks on it. And that's where the boat was. And the divers dived on it the next day. And without John actually coming and saying, you know, we got to look for these guys, you know, we wouldn't have went out there. It was just so horrendous. Anyway, and then after that, the Pittwater, even Ted got involved in it. And Ollie Knight and Arrow diving and everyone got into getting this boat up from about 120 feet of water and getting it back into fixed up itself. And Johnny Alldrtitt was he was the man behind the whole thing. The next looking for it with me and getting it back to the surface, you know. So he was around for everything.
Yeah. But it was a real shame, that, wasn't it? That's something that shouldn't have happened. It's they would have been a bit wiser. But anyway, another one, John. The bushfires of '94. Remember when they came right through the basin, and we were evacuating people out of the basin. I'm not sure. Was Robbie Bullen back there? Was he there then? No. He was he? Yeah. Well, he was organising all that, and I just jumped on the Caroline with Jimmy Goddard, another one in the basin, and it was coming over the top of coasters there. There was you and John and Carl and Putrid were lighting fires. And I thought that was pretty stupid. But then you explained to me later on why you did. Explain to me what it was.
What it was, Carl Gonzo and myself went over and we joined ships. And it was pretty horrendous. The fire was coming down pretty quick, going to wipe all the houses out. So John said, it was his call. The big call, he said, we're going to backburn. So you and Carl raced along and light fires along behind the houses. And I said, wow, that's a big call, ships. And he went, yeah, we're going to do it. It's the only way to stop it. So I got behind the first house, and they had the hoses on the bush, all behind the house. There's fire in there.